Spera from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Welcome to Let's Talk. My guest today is one of the most successful New Orleans music producers of all time. He produced Cash Money Records releases by Juvenile, Lil Wayne, BG, the Hot Boys, and his own duo, the Big Timers, that sold millions of copies. He's also a prolific DJ, working the turntables at everything from Saints games to society parties. His latest collaboration with symphony orchestras includes a concert with the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra on November 21st, 2025 at the Orpheum Theater. Here to talk about all that and more is Mannie Fresh. Mannie, welcome to Let's Talk, sir.
Thank you.
So when you do a performance with a symphony, do you wear a tuxedo?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I would be cheating the audience if I think that, because it is a symphony, and even though it's a different theme, I want to keep some of it traditional. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to wear a tuxedo.
But sneakers with the tuxedo?
Probably, yeah. You probably get some sneakers.
All right. So
and I would tell anybody that's coming, wear sneakers with your tuxedo. You don't have to do traditional things, because this is not traditional in that sense.
No, it is not. But it is an interesting blend of tradition and contemporary.
Yeah.
So how did this happen? I know the LPO, Louisiana Philharmonic, has done a couple shows with Big Frida. So
yeah.
they've been experimenting with collaborating with artists from well outside the classical genre. How did the collaboration with you start off?
So it was almost kind of the same thing what Frida was doing, but I wanted a different spin. Mm-hmm. So because they was doing it with Frida, they was like, well, how can we turn the page, and who would be an artist that, New Orleans would be interested in? And my name was in the pot, and I was asked to do it, and I'm honored to be asked to do it. So I think Frida opened the gates up, and now it's my turn and my twist on it.
So they approached you. They came to you.
Yes, sir.
Is this something you had ever thought possible?
Not in a million years. I never would have thought I would have a collab with an orchestra, anything like that. Anything, coming from, I do have little classic components to my music, some of it, but I would have never thought in a billion years I would be doing this.
With the full symphony.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So how does it start? How do you begin to translate your music to a symphonic treatment?
Well, the thing is, this is a different thing, because me watching other people do it, I didn't want it to be that. So what I did, mine is going to actually be a DJ set. It would be kind of like the title of my album, The Mind of Mannie Fresh. So it would be a DJ set you're going to get stuff from the Bee Gees to Barry White to some of my music. So I'm kind of all over the place with this. But it was kind of tedious, because getting a symphony to play, why I'm doing a DJ set, the timing and all of that, and even just some of the songs were recorded flat, some of them was recorded sharp. Figuring out how do we make that merge, how do we make that happen? Because these were old songs. Like, for instance, if I play like an old Bee Gees song, just because of the way it was recorded, the song it might be off a few semitones or whatever. So us finding the niche to make all of that work was tedious, but we own it.
And you're saying Bee Gees, the Australian trio,
yes,
not BG.
Yes, not BG the rapper.
The Cash Money
I'm talking
rapper.
about
the Bee Gees.
The Bee Gees.
The Bee Gees. So
More than a woman, those Bee Gees.
Those Bee Gees, exactly. Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
Those Bee Gees. Yes. So when you do a DJ set, normally you can be spontaneous and play whatever you want.
Yeah.
But for this, I imagine you've got to follow a set list, because they need to stay with you.
Yeah, they need to stay with me. So creating a set list, that was challenging, and it was also fun, because it's too and I didn't know. When I was first approached, they was just like, yeah, we need like a 40-minute, set. And I was just like, okay, done. And it was like, no, we need 2 of them. And they got to be completely different. And I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of made it challenging. And I still wanted it to be true to Louisiana. So I picked a lot of songs that I knew that we like. Like, some of the songs that we grew up on, some of the songs that your parents played, when they was cleaning the house or whatever they was doing. And that's why we know these incredible songs. That's why generations know them, because they was implanted in you from hearing people play them. So I kind of was cautious and careful about how I picked those songs. I was like, I know this has been around us for forever.
So are you saying you're going to throw like some Frankie Beverly and Maze?
Oh
in there?
yeah, yes. You're going to get a little bit of all of that. And the way I see this as, usually when you think of an orchestra, or if you're thinking of something classical, you're well behaved and you got to sit down and you just got to sit there and just endure it
and listen,
right?
Yeah, just listen.
This is not that. You can get up and dance and have a good time. Like that, I'm not telling you to sit in the seats and just go, oh, that was a cool song. No, you can actually get up and and dance along with it and enjoy the set.
So this will be an audience participation,
yes.
Classical symphonic show.
Yes.
Audience participation. So then is the LPO there, I guess, doing the arrangements for the symphonic parts that they're going to put behind the songs you're playing? Okay. All right. But you're going to be throwing in some of your Cash Money productions, obviously.
Yeah. I have some of my favorite songs that I produced. I picked, to put in some of your favorite songs. I don't want to give them away, but, there's a little bit of everything in there.
I would think that you would have to have, we'll say the clean version of the title, Back That Thing Up in there.
That is
classic
in there.
Juvenile.
Yeah, that is definitely in there.
I cannot imagine Juvenile's Back That Thing Up with a symphony.
That is definitely in there. And I even put a few bounce songs in there that I know, they've been around New Orleans for forever. I'll tell y'all one of them, Jubilee. I did Jubilee, Getting Ready. Everybody down south know that song. So I was like, yeah, we got to have that in there.
That was a song, it started out, the Jubilee song, it started out block parties and ended up, a buddy of mine DJs at high school dances. I think he still plays at high school dances, and it's still a popular song.
Yeah.
So it goes all the way.
And half and half people know that's I did that song. The beat came from something, that was, most people were like, oh, I didn't know you did like most of the bounce stuff. And I was like, yeah, but that was before, producers was getting credit, or you just kind of jammed the song or whatever. You really didn't know who made it or how it came up. But so it's one of my songs as well. That's produced by Mannie Fresh.
So you did the beat on
Getting Ready. The original song was Cheeky Black. So he just kind of rapped over it. He just took the instrumental of it and rapped over it. But that beat has been used so many times. And especially in New Orleans,
right.
It's crazy how many times that beat has been, that's where the term that beat came from. And a lot of people are like, how did we start calling, like a bounce song that beat? Because people would always say, play that beat, And when I was DJing in the club, like maybe around 16, 17, people would beat on the glass and be like, can you play that beat? That beat. And, and of course, New Orleans people, they always put, they'll put their name on it and call it theirs.
Right.
And when you like, that's not the name or whatever it is, but it was like, okay, we're going to call it that beat. Even like how we say a DJ, that came from block parties. They was like, oh, the DJ. And it's just like, well, it's a block party. But people just it was more emphasis on the DJ. Right. So we start calling the block parties the DJ. Like, you're going to the DJ. Are you going to the DJ? So, but it's New Orleans twist, and it's our slang. It's our own.
We got plenty of slang here. Plenty of slang.
Yes.
If you're just tuning in, my guest today is record producer and DJ Mannie Fresh. So that particular beat that you're talking about, this is one you came up with when you were a teenager, I guess?
Yes.
Man, just think of all the songs that something you did as a teenager, all the songs that beat has populated. It's an incredible legacy. Going back to those days, was your aspiration as a youngster to produce records, or were you just DJing?
No, I never understood what producing was until later on. I didn't know that's what I was doing. My the way it happened with me was I was a club DJ, me and KLC, and KLC is the producer who produced all the No Limit stuff. So when we was teenagers, we used to DJ at this club called Rumors, and that was in Gentilly way back. Well, not Gentilly. I think that's the Ninth Ward. Club Rumors.
Club Rumors.
Right by the train tracks. I forget what street is, but me and him DJ'd in there. And there was another DJ Duck, that was who's kind of a pioneer back then as well. And because they were so good, I was looking for a different element. I was like, you know what? I gotta beat these dudes out, because when you close out, sometimes that's a bad thing. Because the DJ before you, he gave all the energy, and so there's nothing left for you.
Right.
And I was like, so I gotta come up with something. So I started bringing my drum machine to the club, and I would always play like beats off of my drum machine. I was like, okay, rather than just DJing songs, I'm gonna create something like, mimicking whatever, was the hot song. I would copy the drums, with my 808 and play it at the club or whatever. And it caught on. And people start saying, could you play that beat? Can you play that beat? Like people start, whenever I would start my set, it would be like, hey, can you play that beat? Play that beat. And that beat morphed into me producing. Like, I started doing my own things instead of mimicking other people's songs.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna start programming some of my own original drums and see how that turned out. And it ran for a long time in New Orleans where people were like, well, the cool thing that Mannie Fresh do, he gets these a cappella songs and he runs them against his drum machine, and it's an original beat, and it was always an 808 beat. And I think that's why we so fascinated with the way 808 sound. We grew up on hearing 808s.
Right.
That was my second drum machine. Luckily, that was the perfect one,
Yeah, I mean it was embedded in everybody's DNA because they heard that beat early on. So and then it translated into bounce music. So let's see. The first record you did under your name was that it was you and another artist,
Gregory
right?
D.
You and Gregory D.
Yeah,
That's right. So that was your first one. Yeah. It was DJ Mannie Fresh.
Yep.
And Gregory D.
And it's a funny story with that. We was in C-Sync studio, Alan Toussaint studio, and Gregory D wasn't there. I was hired by somebody, some guys from California who needed a DJ to put some scratches on a song, and they didn't know how to work the equipment. And so there was a drum machine there, but I didn't. I was like, well, I'm not hired to do the drums or whatever. I wind up, but I was there, just sitting in there, going like, y'all needed a DJ to scratch. I could do that, but they was like, well, you know what? We don't really know how. And Alan was like, well, if you want to use it's a free session because these guys don't know what they're doing. If you want to use the studio, you can use the studio, whatever. And I was just calling people, anybody I knew that rapped.
Call them to come down to the studio.
I was like, hey, I got a session at C-Sync right now. You should come right now. And I called my friend Denny first, and he was at work. And I called Greg second, and Greg was like, wait, I can make a song? I was like, yes, we can make a song. And Reggie engineered the song, who was Alan's son.
Reggie,
like, and the Buck Jump Time song came from somebody who did not know, what they was doing in the studio. And we made that night. Like, we made that song up that night in the studio off a session that, Alan was like, hey, you can have this free session because these guys, they canceled on me and it's paid for, but they don't know what they're doing. And and that's that, and the rest of that is history. That started it.
That is the perfect example of opportunity meeting preparation. Like you got your chance there in this legendary New Orleans studio. I mean, of course, Alan Toussaint. Yeah. As I said in the intro, you're one of the most successful producers in New Orleans music history. So is Alan Toussaint. So is Dave Bartholomew before him.
Yeah.
But the fact that Alan Toussaint gave you your first session in his studio is pretty neat, like handing of the torch. Yeah. One generation of New Orleans music to the other. Yeah. And I love the fact, too, that you were a DJ with the guy that ended up producing a lot of the songs for No Limit Records, which was the other big label to come out of New Orleans in addition to Cash Money. So that had both those labels had their origins in that same club. Yeah.
And I think even part of the sound of both of those labels was because of the way we was brought up, me and him. Our just paying attention to the streets and what was going on at the time and how sound was evolving and both of us finding our thing that was our thing. And, it led to No Limit being successful and Cash Money being successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you're just tuning in, my guest today is record producer and DJ, Mannie Fresh. So let's talk a little bit about the Cash Money records that you did. I mean, huge records. I mean, Juveniles, 400 Degrees sold, I think, 4 million copies. Just that one album sold 400 copies. Singles were huge. Also big records for Lil Wayne, Hot Boys, all these records. Is there one thing that led them to be such successful productions? In other words, do you have a secret sauce as a producer? Like, what is it about your touch that was able to make so many records by all those different artists
I think
so popular?
You have to translate that you are having a genuine time when you're doing this music. I think to the public it can feel like when you're forcing something, when you're doing it to make money, or you doing it from a place where you want to be popular. But I think my secret sauce was I always tried to make it true. I wanted the song to sound like exactly what the mood was that day. If we was having fun, this song should sound like that. The lyrics should sound like that. Not nothing that was forced where, and even if somebody said it was gimmicky, it wasn't really that. That's what I was thinking, because folks were like, oh, you wrote all of these hooks that, that they're catchy. And I was like, yeah, but that was the way I was feeling. Right. And a lot of them did come from a real place. You know, like if you take, for instance, Still Fly, you know, it's like gator boots, pimped out Gucci suits, ain't got no job, but I stay sharp. Got a quarter tank of gas in my new E-Class. You know, that is everybody, white, black, all of that. You bet you had that moment where, you know, where you was just like, yeah, you know, I look good, but my money funny.
I look good, but my money's funny. Well, let's see. You know, all of a sudden, I mean, Get Your Roll On, revolve that one. Bling Bling.
Yes.
All that stuff. I mean, were these just catchphrases that that you and the rappers were coming up with?
Believe it or not, like a lot of them, like Bling Bling. The cool thing is, I remember where I came up with it and how. I had Bling Bling came to me in my sleep, and I had to get up and record it because it kept, playing over and over. I'm making up the hook as I'm sleeping, and I'm singing it, bling, bling, every time I come around your city. I was like, you know what, if I don't record this, I'm not gonna remember it tomorrow morning. Yeah. So I got up, recorded it, and we did it the next day. And the song was pretty much presented to everybody else. And I was like, hey, I already did the hook, I already did the beat. That's all y'all gotta do is fill in the raps. And it was like, well, where did you come up? I was like, it was something that was bothering me. It was lingering on me, so I had to record it.
Wow, and it was the Hot Boys that did that one.
Yeah,
it was on
the song originally, but it was a big timer song. But because BG was so dark and street, we was like, well, how do we get sales out of him? How do we get the masses to pay attention to him? We gave the song to him, and it became a success, and it pushed his album to a platinum album. So it was a good choice to give it to him.
But that was a strategy because, like you said, BG, he didn't have that mainstream appeal.
Yes, he did not have that mainstream appeal. So I was like, this will be the song that will do it for him.
And it did.
Yeah.
And it did. And it did. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's part of your role as a producer is to match the right song, the right material with the right artist. And obviously you guys had that down to a science at Cash Money back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, and one of the other things, we paid attention to, if we had a phrase in the song that people sung, like if it was something that stood out. Because you'll have something in the song that like for some reason the crowd, they just resonate with people, and it's that one little part, and you're like, that is the next hook right there, whatever that because they'll sing that loud, and it could be dead, and that one little part comes up, and you just like, okay, that for some reason, and we did that a lot. We paid attention to what the crowd response would be to certain parts of the song, and we made those hooks. And I was like, hey, look, this is our hook right here.
So one fed off the other.
Yeah.
One hit song fed off the other.
Yeah.
And you kept building.
We started on, like, for instance, Get Your Roll On. It was a part of the show. It was never, but we used to say it like when we was on tour. Like when on a certain song, we would always say, everybody get your roll on before the song was even recorded. But we had said it so many times on tour that people start saying it before we would say it. So I was like, we got to record this because they know it before we, I'm like, anywhere we go, people say it before we even, it would be the crowd looking at us going like, and I'm like, we got to record this
Doing
song.
the arm motion.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's got to be a banger too. And I'm like, it's got to be something that, that's like, and the idea of how we shot it. I was like, we got to do Donuts. We got to do it in a manner of, this has never been done. Like, go home, go big or go home.
Doing donuts with the car?
Yeah, because we picked cars that was, like nobody would have dared done that in a Lamborghini. Nobody would have dared done that in a Bentley,
That is, as a producer, that's got to make your heart sing when you have a hit before the song's even recorded.
Yeah,
you didn't even make the song and it was already a hit because they're already doing a catchphrase. It's an amazing thing. So Cash Money, y'all had this great run, sold millions and millions of records, like I said. Then, of course, kind of fell apart. There was divisions, people left the label, there was lawsuits, there were squabbles. Went on for years.
Typical music business stuff.
Typical music business. It doesn't matter what era you're talking about, what genre. There's going to be craziness between the label and the artist and all that sort of stuff. Which is a long way of saying I was surprised and glad that you guys were all able to reunite. You've done different reunions over the years at various points, but in 2024, you guys did the big Hot Boys reunion at the Smoothie King Center for Lil Wayne's annual Louisiana Fest show. You sold it out well in advance. I want to say 14 or 15,000 tickets. Yeah. The atmosphere in the arena that night was just electric. People were so excited. From your standpoint, from being up on stage, performing, and just seeing the whole Cash Money crew back together again? What was going through your mind?
I honestly, sometimes, with business, when people fall apart and things, you kind of lose touch with folks, and you don't, you're doing your thing, they doing their thing, and you lose focus of what it meant to people, and when I seen like folks like crying and people just like, embracing this and like it was the Beatles or something, like, where I'm like, wait, you could see the emotion on, and right then and there it was a rush of feelings, because it feels like you did, like I took for granted. I think all of us took for granted that we didn't know that this really meant that much to this city, like in the movement that, what it did for a lot of people, and one of the things what's crazy about our city is music, sports, and it's probably devastation. That's the things that bring us together. You see what I'm saying? Right. So if it's a good concert, we all get along. If it's good music, if it's some devastation, we gotta all get along. Everybody gotta forget about whatever was going on with you. We gotta get along. In sports, we all get along. So that's the three elements of this city, and we kind of forgot that, like this was a gap that like this bridged so many people and so many things. And when somebody say, man, this got me through college, or this was, like I know this song because my mom used to play this song, like, and my dad put me onto this song or whatever, and I love y'all music, and to see that gave me this whole chill thing about, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe like this is really that much of a movement, because you take for granted, like I said, I'm doing my thing, I'm DJing, but we hadn't done these songs together for forever. Right. So I really didn't know how it was going to be received, but to see the emotion and the love that people gave, you genuinely get it. If you didn't, something wrong with you. Like I was like, hey, this is really like important. This is important to this culture. This is important to people in our era who grew up on this. They really want to see us do this again, and they love it.
Well, and not only in New Orleans, but y'all ended up doing shows at arenas in other cities as well. So I mean, it's not just a New Orleans thing. I mean, that Cash Money catalog and the Hot Boys in particular translated nationally, and so you guys got that kind of reception other places
even
as well.
The crazy thing is the way it happened. Me and Juvie started touring.
You and Juvenile.
Yeah, me and Juvenile started touring, and it kind of got Wayne's ear, and it got, because we would before that show happened, me and him was on the road, and we was selling out everywhere we was going, and we still, me and him just can't believe this.
You and Juvenile.
Yeah, we can't, because we just like, dude, like this is crazy. Like there's a movement, like that people are starting to come, and every night, and we playing somewhere every night, a different city, and we kind of had it in our mind, that some of these are going to be misses. Some of these might not work out, because we like, maybe, some people love it, some people don't. But every night it was sold out, and then we start getting a demand for this, and it caught Wayne's ear and everybody else. And every time me and Jude would do an interview, we would always say, like, it would be nice to have everybody. It was like, we love doing this, but it would be nice if we had everybody,
Yep.
And would really everybody know this, and this was a home run for New Orleans, the Tiny Desk. When we did the Tiny Desk, you couldn't tell people from New Orleans nothing. There was just like this, they like, that's our babies. Mannie and Juvie is us. They represent us.
This is the NPR Tiny Desk concert.
Yes.
You guys, Juvenile did it with you, and John Batiste was there sitting in.
And
it was
Troy, Trombone Shorty. It couldn't have been more perfect. You know what it was just like that, the family of what we done, like, and the show that those roots are still with us, and we are all family and friends in our city, because it was people when we left it was like, I had no idea that you knew Trombone Shorty, or we know John. It was like, yeah, that's that.
Well, John Batiste and Trombone Shorty grew up listening to the Hot Boys and Cash Money.
Yes.
I mean, so yeah.
And and Trombone Shorty played on some of the songs when he was young. And a lot of people didn't know that. He would play on the songs for wrestling tickets. He was like, hey, just give me some tickets to go to the wrestling, and I'm good. I'll be there.
I love that. You got to pay him a little bit more than wrestling tickets nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. He is a superstar, right?
All right, we only got 2 minutes left here, but no, that's great. I mean, it goes to show the interconnectedness of music in this town. It cuts across genres, and I think that now extends to what you're doing with the symphonies. I mean, that was kind of like the last frontier for you as far as New Orleans music, because you've done stuff with all these other guys, and now you're doing it with the symphony.
Yes, and if you're coming to this, please let your hair down, have fun. This is not going to be that traditional thing. It's going to be a New Orleans twist to it. Let's just say that.
A New Orleans twist. But you'll have your turntables up there, just like always.
Yes. And I'm going to interact like there'll be live scratching. There'll be, some instrumentation from me as well. But this is going to have a New Orleans twist. You do not have to sit in your seat and just, chill and wait for the next song or whatever. Have a good time. If this should be date night for you. Bring your wife, your girlfriend, or whoever, your partner, and let's have a good time.
It's dressing up and getting down.
Yes.
Dressing up. You can use that.
Thank you. I will. That's going to be it. Dressing up and getting down.
There you go. I'll do it for wrestling tickets. You can have it for wrestling tickets. Well, Mannie, I've really enjoyed this, man. This has been a great primer on the history of hip hop in New Orleans, as well as, I think, introducing folks to what you're doing next, which is breaking this new ground with the symphonies now. And you want to do it in other cities too.
Yeah, and I plan on bringing this to other cities. That's the plan. And to do it as a DJ set, I just want it, because I've seen them, done with artists, and usually they just sing their songs and the symphony play behind them. And I'm like, it would be incredible if, let's not just concentrate on my songs. Let's concentrate on great music. And let's give these people something that, they really grew up on and they love. And this is one of what's so incredible about New Orleans, for me, last but not least, we have grown up on some of the songs that we know, and it's been generations, and we not letting them go nowhere. Other places, they always try to turn the page and be like, well, that's old. I'm like, not to us. We love the same songs, like our parents played and our grandparents played, because they installed it in us. You could think about Bob Marley Legend. That right there, you don't even know why you know that. You know that because your parents played it.
If it was good then, it's still good now.
Exactly.
It's still good now. Well, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Once again, that was Mannie Fresh. I am Keith Spera. I'll see you again next time on Let's Talk.